Have you ever wondered, what if I told you there was a time when humans looked exactly like us? They had the same hands, the same eyes, and the same brain. But something was missing. They could hunt, run, and survive, yet they weren't truly human because they had no idea that they even existed. There were no dreams or future or past or questions or imagination. There was only instinct and survival. So what changed? What happened inside the human brain that suddenly made us ask impossible questions like who am I, or why am I here, or what happens after death, or what is time? That single moment may have been the greatest upgrade in the entire history of life. Without it, there would be no civilization or science or religion or language or music or stories, and not even this video. Today we are going back nearly 300,000 years to uncover the exact moment when humans became conscious, and trust me, the real answer is far stranger than most people imagine. Around 300,000 years ago, early Homo sapiens were already walking across Africa. From the outside, they looked surprisingly modern. If you dressed one in today's clothes, most people wouldn't notice anything unusual. But inside their minds, the world was completely different. Every day followed the same pattern of waking up and searching for food and avoiding predators and staying alive and sleeping and repeating. There was almost no long-term planning or complex stories or deep thinking. Life was ruled almost entirely by instinct. Their brains were powerful, but they weren't using them the way we do today. Think of it like owning the world's fastest computer but only using it as a calculator. For thousands of generations, humans survived, but they didn't truly understand the world around them. Lightning terrified them, and darkness terrified them, and death confused them. Every strange sound in the forest could mean danger, and every shadow could hide a predator. Fear wasn't weakness, but it was survival. That fear slowly began changing something inside the human brain. For thousands of years, nothing seemed to change. Humans became better hunters. They learned which plants could heal and which ones could kill. They discovered safer caves and sharpened stones into deadly weapons. But something even more important was happening deep inside the human brain. Scientists believe that at some point early humans developed something called symbolic thinking. It sounds complicated, but it's actually the reason you are able to imagine tomorrow and remember yesterday or picture something that doesn't even exist. Before this moment, a river was just water and a tree was just food and fire was just heat. Suddenly, everything started to mean something. A footprint wasn't just a mark in the mud anymore because it became a clue. Smoke in the distance wasn't just smoke because it meant another group of humans might be nearby. The stars weren't just lights in the sky because they became guides. For the very first time, humans stopped reacting only to the world around them and started creating a world inside their own minds. That single ability changed everything because once you can imagine something, you can also plan for it. Hunters no longer chased animals without thinking. They began setting traps and predicting movements and working together. Instead of surviving one day at a time, they started preparing for tomorrow. Tomorrow slowly became next week and next season and even the next generation. Then another miracle happened because humans discovered the greatest survival tool ever created. It wasn't fire or weapons or strength, but it was language. At first, it was probably nothing more than simple sounds and gestures like a warning or a call for help or a signal to attack. Over thousands of years, those sounds became words, and those words became stories. One human could now pass knowledge to another without that person experiencing the danger themselves. Imagine a child learning which berries were poisonous without ever eating one. Imagine a hunter explaining exactly where a lion hides before anyone gets attacked. For the first time in Earth's history, knowledge could survive longer than the person who discovered it. Every generation no longer had to start from zero because they could build upon the discoveries of those who came before them. That is when human evolution did something no other species had ever achieved. It stopped relying only on biology and started evolving through knowledge. As language grew stronger, something extraordinary happened. Humans no longer lived only in the present. They began living inside stories. Around campfires, elders spoke about dangerous rivers and giant predators, and brave hunters and mysterious forces hidden in the darkness. At first, these stories were meant to protect the tribe, but over time they became something much bigger. They created trust and traditions and identity. For the first time, hundreds of strangers could believe in the same idea even if they had never met before. That is something almost no other animal can do. A wolf trusts only its pack, and a chimpanzee trusts only the group it knows. But humans can cooperate with millions of complete strangers simply because they believe in the same story. Whether it's a nation or a religion or money or laws or even a company, they are all built on shared beliefs. That ability didn't appear overnight. It evolved slowly, one conversation at a time and one story at a time and one generation after another. Then came another revolutionary discovery, which was fire. Most people think fire simply helped humans cook food, but scientists believe it did something even more important. Created time. Before fire, darkness meant the end of the day. As soon as the sun disappeared, survival became the only priority. Once humans learned to control fire, everything changed. Nights became longer and families gathered around the flames. Hunters shared experiences and children learned from elders. Stories became more detailed and ideas became more complex. Every single night, the human brain practiced something it had never done before, which was imagination. Around those glowing fires, humans weren't just warming their bodies. They were building civilizations without even realizing it. Every conversation strengthened memory, and every story improved communication, and every question expanded curiosity. Slowly, the human brain became better at predicting the future and understanding other people's emotions and solving problems and creating completely new ideas. That was the real beginning of intelligence. It wasn't because our brains suddenly became bigger, but because they became connected. One brain learned from another and then thousands more. Knowledge no longer disappeared when someone died. It continued living inside the minds of the next generation. That is exactly where humans began pulling away from every other species on Earth. Before agriculture, humans lived in small tribes, usually no more than 30 or 40 people. Everyone knew everyone and trust was personal. Survival depended on the people standing beside you. Around 12,000 years ago, everything changed. Humans made one discovery that completely rewrote history. They stopped following food and started growing it. Agriculture wasn't just about farming. It was the moment humans decided to control nature instead of running from it. Villages slowly appeared and villages became towns and towns became cities. Suddenly, thousands of people who had never met each other were living together. That created a brand new problem. How do you make thousands of strangers cooperate? The answer wasn't strength or fear, but it was ideas. Humans invented rules and laws and leaders and religions and money. These weren't physical objects that existed in nature. They existed because millions of people agreed they were real. Think about money for a second. A piece of paper has almost no value by itself. But because billions of people believe it has value, it can buy food and houses and airplanes and even entire companies. That is one of the greatest evolutionary superpowers humans ever developed, which is the ability to believe in invisible systems. That same ability allowed civilizations to grow larger than anything Earth had ever seen. Ancient Egypt built pyramids and Mesopotamia created the first cities and the Romans built massive empires. None of that happened because humans became physically stronger. It happened because human minds learned to work together through shared beliefs. As civilizations expanded, another invention quietly changed humanity forever, and that was writing. Before writing, knowledge lived only inside people's memories. If the smartest person in a tribe died, centuries of experience could disappear overnight. But writing changed everything. Ideas could finally outlive the human brain. A farmer could leave instructions for people he would never meet, and a king could send orders across entire kingdoms, and a scientist could discover something, and thousands of years later another scientist could continue that work. Human knowledge was no longer limited by one lifetime. It became something that could grow forever. Generation after generation, humans didn't just inherit land or tools because they inherited information. Every new generation started a little further ahead than the last. That single advantage created an unstoppable chain reaction that would eventually lead from stone tools to books to electricity to computers and finally to the smartphone sitting in your hand today. Then came the greatest revolution of all, not in the outside world but inside the human brain. Modern neuroscience has revealed something fascinating. The human brain today is almost the same size as it was nearly 200,000 years ago. So if our brains didn't suddenly become bigger, how did we become so much smarter? The answer is surprisingly simple. We didn't evolve because of bigger brains, but because of better connections. Every generation inherited not just genes but knowledge. Imagine if every time a baby was born today, humanity had to rediscover fire and invent language and create farming and build mathematics and discover electricity all over again. Civilization would never exist. Instead, every child is born into thousands of years of accumulated knowledge. Your brain doesn't start from zero because it starts where billions of humans left off. That is why a teenager today can understand ideas that even the greatest kings of ancient civilizations could never imagine. But here's the strange part. While civilization changed unbelievably fast, evolution didn't. Your brain is still running on software written during the Stone Age. Deep inside your mind, the same survival instincts that once protected your ancestors are still working every single day. That is why sudden loud noises make you jump, and why you notice angry faces faster than smiling ones, and why you feel anxious before speaking in front of strangers. Thousands of years ago, being rejected by your tribe could mean certain death. Today, you're only giving a presentation in school or at work, but your brain reacts as if your survival is still at risk. That is why fear feels so real even when no danger exists. It's not because your brain is broken, but because your brain is ancient. Evolution simply hasn't had enough time to catch up with the modern world. We now live surrounded by smartphones and skyscrapers and artificial intelligence and satellites. But inside your skull, a Stone Age brain is still trying to protect you from dangers that disappeared thousands of years ago. In many ways, every modern human is living with two different worlds at the same time. One is the modern world we see around us, and the other is the ancient world our brain still remembers. Understanding that hidden connection may be one of the most important discoveries you can ever make about yourself. Today, humans have reached the moon and built artificial intelligence. We can speak to someone on the other side of the planet instantly. We carry more computing power in our pockets than NASA had during the first moon landing. Yet, despite all this technology, our brains still fall into the same ancient traps. We still fear the unknown and judge people within seconds and crave belonging and panic in darkness and search for meaning. In other words, modern humans are living in a futuristic world with a prehistoric operating system. Scientists see evidence of this everywhere. Social media makes your brain treat every notification like a reward because thousands of years ago, discovering food or gaining approval from your tribe released the same dopamine system that now reacts to likes and messages. Junk food exists because your ancestors never knew when their next meal would come. So whenever they found sugar or fat, their brains told them to eat as much as possible. Today, food is everywhere, but your Stone Age brain still behaves as if starvation could happen tomorrow. Even anxiety has ancient roots. Long ago, the humans who constantly looked for danger were more likely to survive than those who ignored it. That survival instinct saved lives, but in the modern world it often creates stress over deadlines and exams and money and problems that aren't life-threatening. The danger changed, but the brain's response didn't. This is why understanding evolution is so powerful. It explains that many of the emotions you experience every day aren't random. They are echoes from a world your ancestors lived in thousands of generations ago. Every fear and every instinct and every habit carries a story that began long before the first city or the first kingdom or even the first written word. Perhaps the most incredible part is that the journey isn't over. Human evolution never truly stopped because it simply changed direction. Today, our bodies evolve slowly, but our ideas evolve faster than ever before. Every new discovery and every invention and every question we ask becomes another step in humanity's endless story. The same curiosity that once pushed an ancient human to wonder what lay beyond the next mountain now pushes scientists to explore distant galaxies and search for life beyond Earth. That tiny spark of curiosity born hundreds of thousands of years ago is still driving humanity forward today. So if humans are already the most intelligent species on Earth, what happens next? This is the question scientists are asking today. For hundreds of thousands of years, evolution shaped us through nature. The strongest survived, and the smartest adapted, and the most curious discovered. But today, nature is no longer the only force changing humanity because technology has entered the story. Artificial intelligence is learning faster every year, and brain-computer interfaces are already allowing people to control machines using only their thoughts. Scientists are editing genes that once took millions of years to change naturally. For the first time in history, humans aren't just products of evolution because we're becoming participants in it. But here's the twist that almost nobody talks about. No matter how advanced our technology becomes, every invention still begins in exactly the same place, which is the human mind. Every rocket and every smartphone and every civilization and every scientific breakthrough started as a single thought inside someone's brain. That incredible brain exists because one small group of ancient humans refused to stop asking questions. They looked at fire and wondered if they could control it. They looked at the stars and wondered what they were. They looked at death and wondered what came next. They looked at the world and simply asked why. That one word changed everything. Curiosity became humanity's greatest weapon. It built civilizations and crossed oceans and reached the moon. One day it may even take us to another planet. So the next time you ask yourself a question, no matter how small it seems, remember this. You are continuing a journey that began hundreds of thousands of years ago inside the mind of an ancient human standing beneath the night sky wondering about the unknown. The world around us has changed beyond recognition, but the spark that made us human never disappeared. It's still inside you, and maybe that's the real reason humans became the only intelligent species on Earth. It is not because we were the strongest or the fastest, but because we never stopped asking questions. Maybe that's the biggest lesson in human history. We often think civilization was built by kings or warriors or powerful empires, but history tells a different story. Civilization was built by ordinary people who refused to stop learning. Every great discovery began with someone asking a simple question. Every invention started as an impossible idea, and every civilization grew because one generation chose to pass its knowledge to the next. That's what truly separates humans from every other species on Earth. It is not strength or speed or even intelligence alone, but it's our ability to learn and imagine and pass those ideas forward. Right now, you are carrying hundreds of thousands of years of human history inside your own brain. Every language you speak and every tool you use and every story you know exists because millions of people before you kept humanity moving forward one discovery at a time. Maybe one day someone in the future will look back at our generation the same way we look back at those ancient humans standing around their first campfire. The story of humanity isn't over because in many ways we are only getting started. So the next time you look at the night sky, remember this. Somewhere in the distant past, an ancient human looked at those same stars with the same curiosity, and that single moment helped create the world you're living in today. The greatest superpower humans ever evolved wasn't fire or language or even intelligence, because it was curiosity. Curiosity never accepts the world as it is but asks what it could become. That is exactly why humanity keeps moving forward. If you enjoyed exploring the hidden story behind human evolution and psychology and the mysteries of our past, make sure to subscribe to Anthrova. Every week we uncover the forgotten stories that explain why humans think and fear and dream and behave the way we do today, and trust me, the next story might completely change the way you see yourself. Until then, stay curious.